What's up? What's up? This
What up? What
is
up?
this is Unwrap. We are live. Before we get into and jump into everything, I want to make sure I got some things situated here as far as privacy is concerned. Before I get into the disclaimer, because that's always a necessity. All right, I believe we're good to go. With that being
Yeah,
said,
you can still see him.
yeah, with that being said, this is the check in, and I am Heat Detector. And before I tell everybody who my guest is tonight, I'm gonna hit you with the disclaimer. We are not licensed therapists. We are not psychiatrists. Nothing of the sort. We are men who have had journeys in life, and the hope is to bring awareness to mental health. And I don't even want to say hope, because we're bringing awareness to mental health, and we're bringing awareness, or not necessarily awareness, but avenues, and helping people with tools to help them through crises, trauma, stress, and things of that nature. Uh oh, I might have to mute you for a second. But we're not psychiatrists. We're not therapists. We're not psychotherapists or anything like that. We're just men who have been on a journey, and that journey has led us to where we are today with the check-in. Also, if you're thin-skinned and you dream of bunny rabbits and cotton candy and running through fields of daisies and all that shit, this show's not for you. Uh, if you are thin-skinned and you're easily offended, this show may not be for you. If you wear your emotions on your sleeve, this might not be for you. If you're easily offended, like I said, this is probably not for you. If you don't know how to take accountability, this is not for you. And the easiest thing to do is to go on another. Just don't watch. Don't watch the channel. Don't listen to it. If it doesn't apply to you or you don't like what's being said, then don't listen to it. Don't deal with it. Find something else to watch. That way you won't get offended by things that are being said, because there's going to be some harsh language. There's going to be some really tough truths. There's going to be uh, yeah, just real life talk and accountability. You know what I mean? And if you're not ready for that, or if you're offended by that, just change the damn channel and go somewhere else. You don't need to. We don't need any negativity in the comments, but it's welcome. Um, We don't need any naysayers in the comments, but it's welcome. Um, but if you want to, like, I don't know, like, report us for something, don't. Just go to another channel. You don't have to watch. We're not forcing anybody to watch it, and we're not forcing our opinions on anybody either. And with that being said, Godspeed to everybody. But I'm your boy Heat Detector, and this is the check-in. Um, and tonight we have a guest. He's been on the show before. He has an amazing podcast himself, but his name is Tony Lynch. Go ahead and tell the people who you are, bro. Um, I don't know what happened to him. He froze up. But Tony Lynch does, I think his specialty is grief. Uh, now, I don't know if it's necessarily grief counseling, but understanding grief. Grief is a big part of a lot of things, a big part of people's traumas. And oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah, it keeps going in and out on me, man.
Oh, you'll be all right. I'll just giving you an introduction. Tell the people who you are and what it is you do, Tony.
Yeah, man. My name is Tony Lynch. I am a nonprofit founder. I'm a men's grief coach. So I help men who have lost loved ones by providing space and resources to help them start the healing process, and to better understand what we're going through. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm a podcaster. I'm an author. You know, all those little fun things that go along with that.
Right. Um, just real quick, like tonight we're going to be talking about critical thinking, and I as a youngster, I never even thought of critical thinking. I didn't even know what critical thinking was. So like critical thinking is something fairly new to me. But I mean, when I say that, I mean in the sense of the words critical thinking were fairly new to me. Critical thinking has not been new to me. I just didn't know the label, you know, nor I'd say a good portion of my life did I even practice critical thinking. And I think critical thinking is extremely important in life and in everyday life and in dealing with stress, with trauma, with overall good mental health, decision making. Uh, Critical thinking is extremely important, and I don't know that it's talked about enough as much as it should be, in my opinion, because we have a whole legion of young and old who don't understand critical thinking or don't know what critical thinking is. And critical thinking is like that moment before you pull the trigger, that millisecond, those moments before you act on something instead of thinking first. So thinking first is key. Giving yourself moments. We used to shout out to OT, who used to be on the show. I need to contact him, make sure he's all right. I hadn't heard from him in a minute. But he used to, he was ex-military, and he used to talk about that 5-second rule. That was one of his favorite things to say. But that is really critical thinking, in a nutshell. You give yourself a minute, process the information, think about it, think before you react, think about it all, because there's consequences to all actions, consequences to every choice that you make, either good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, if there's a good consequence, obviously you're going to you made a good choice. If it's a bad consequence, you made a poor choice, and so on and so forth. But the consequences can be good, the consequences can be bad, the consequences can be on the fence. I don't know, but it's important to think about those things. It's important to think before you do things, and I know it's easier said than done. Um, I was one of those people, like I understood, but I didn't practice. I didn't know the label of critical thinking, but I didn't necessarily practice it. I knew about it because I would, if someone was to tell me something or something was happening, I would think about it, but half the time I would just react anyways. I would think about like like what the fuck, the consequences of this shit I might might be getting ready to do, and what are the consequences of it. I don't know that I even really thought about the consequences that much. I I thought about it, but then there was a lot of things I feel like that pushed me or had my mind thinking, "Fuck it, it's whatever. I don't care." Instead of thinking, even though I may have thought in that moment, uh, this is going to be a fucked up choice. But I didn't really particularly care about the outcome until after, and I think that's remorse, like buyer's remorse. Um, but even then, I would be like, I'll just deal with it. If it was bad, I'll deal with it. Because I guess, like in thinking, it was like everything else in life had been bad, had been fucked up, had been a lot of different things. So my thoughts were well, it can't get any worse than this, could it? It can't get any more fucked up than this. And the truth is, it can, and it does if you allow it. Life does life. We've talked about that before. Life does a lot of shit. But on that same note, it's just choices that we make in between all of these things that help us to get through the day, or help us, or not help us to get through the day. Shit. Uh, some of those choices may land us in prison. Some of us choices may end up getting us shot or shooting somebody, God forbid, or any number of things. But we have this question. I have another show, and we have this question that we ask on the show about because the show's about artists, right? And we always ask the question, like, if you could talk to your young rapper or producer self, what would you say? What would you say to him? And would he listen? And I got to thinking about that. What would I say to my younger self, just in general, about critical thinking, about and would I even listen? If my 20-year-old self saw me now, and I walked up to me at 20 and said, "Hey man, you need to really think before you react. You need to really think before you behave a certain way, or you know, do something." Would I take that into consideration? Would I even listen? And it really had me thinking about choices in life, and had me thinking about many times, had I given myself a moment to process whatever was going on instead of reacting, where would I be at? How many foul choices had I made that had gotten me in situations that I didn't need to be in, that also caused stress and anxiety, and all a myriad of other things that affected me. And had I processed the information first, had I looked at it for what it was, and had I thought about the real consequences to my actions, had I really given these things a thought before I did anything, or before I reacted, or before I behaved in a certain way, where would I be at? What would I be doing? Would I be the same person? And for that matter, most importantly, would I even listen? Would I even listen to me? That's key. And really, I know I wouldn't. Well, shit. We've talked about it. Back. Thanks for having me back, Tony. Um,
Hey man, thanks for having me, man. I dropped out for a little bit there.
yeah, but you're back. That's all that matters. Did you hear any of the
Yeah,
things
man.
that I
I'm
was
here.
saying? Did you hear any of the things that I was
No,
saying?
no, I
So,
didn't get the chance to hear anything. So I had to wait till I got home to even connect back.
all right. So we spoke earlier, and I talked about that question of, would me as a 20-year-old, right, listen to me now as an adult, like a full grown ass man. And I walked up to me and I was like, "Listen, man, you've got to." Now, mind you, I did give a premise that me at that age, although I understood what critical thinking was, I didn't know the label. I didn't know the name, you know?
Right, right,
And I understood what it was, but that doesn't mean I necessarily put it into action. I didn't understand what it
right,
meant to have critical thinking. I knew, like I said earlier, before I would do shit, I would process. I'd not necessarily process it, but I'd think about it. I'm like, man, I'm about to do this shit, and things are gonna get real shaky. Things might get real fucked up here. But my brain also said, fuck it. I mean, life's already fucked up. How much worse could it get? So
right.
my thoughts were like, oh, then fuck it. I'll deal with the consequences after the fact, and I don't give a fuck what they are. Now, that's not critical thinking. I know, because there might be some people out there that hear that and they go, well, shit, that's not critical thinking. But we're also talking about a 20-year-old me. The 20-year-old me did hear it within my mind, but I didn't process it the right way. I didn't even understand how to process that shit. And when making these decisions and when reacting or behaving in any manner, making fucking poor choices or whatever, all of those things added to my stress that I didn't realize. They added to my anxiety that I didn't realize that I had. It added to every other shit that I was already dealing with, and I didn't realize the consequences of those. You know, the consequences of my behavior or my choice, how it would affect my mental state. Does that make sense? So my thought is like, okay, so first of all, what the hell would I say to me, and would I even listen? So the grown ass man going to the 20-year-old heat detector, what does he say to him? And does he even listen? Or even better, how do I get him to listen? I know he's not going to listen. I can tell you right now, he ain't going to listen. He'll listen for that moment. He'll nod his head. He'll acknowledge what you said. He'll process it right. I'm talking about the 20-year-old heat detector. He'll process that shit right then and there. He may even say, you know what, this motherfucker's right. But as soon as the grown-ass man heat detector walks away, he's going to be like, man, fuck that motherfucker. He don't know what he's talking about. He ain't in my shoes. He don't know shit. I'm about to do what I got to do. I got to survive. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I got to survive. And that survival is mental. It's not. A lot of times it ain't the physical surviving as we think. You know what I'm saying? That's the mental surviving. Because although I may not know that older gentleman heat detector, but that older gentleman don't know what's going in my head. But that older gentleman does. If that makes it into some weird world right there. But that older gentleman does know what's going inside my head. But that 20-year-old me is gonna be like, he don't know shit. So like, how do we get people to understand what critical thinking is? Because I think I think it's one of the most untalked about things that is crucial to me, crucial as shit. Because I'm finding myself as I'm using this tool of because that's what it is, really a tool. Using this critical thinking in everyday life and everyday scenarios. I had a situation with somebody just recently, and I got real elevated, and in my mind, I was like, I can tell you, I had 3 times where I looked at this person and I said to myself, I'm not going to punch this motherfucker. I wanted to humiliate him. I said to myself, I'm about to slap the shit out this motherfucker. Like literally. And I could literally feel my body tensing up, and I was looking at this motherfucker. And then I was like, come on now. Even though I was elevated, because I have been practicing critical thinking, I weighed out all the different shit in that little millisecond, all the different scenarios of what could happen, what would happen, what are the consequences of this. Well, is it worth it? Because what he's saying to me really doesn't fucking matter. What he's saying to me doesn't matter. In my real life, what he says doesn't matter. In my real life, doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my everyday process. It doesn't affect my everyday workings of heat detectors world. It doesn't. So I just looked at him and kept on. You need to chill, bro. You're a little delusional right now. That shit went on, and then again, boy, woo. And I had to think about it again. Now, the second time around, I'm thinking, why do I want to harm this person? Why? Because he ain't saying shit. I know he's delusional and I know he's talking out of his ass, but why in the fuck do I still want to hit this individual? I want to smack the shit out of him. I want to slap the taste out his mouth. Why though? Because now this is the second time around. This is within a matter of minutes, and I'm like, I had already processed like what's gonna happen if I do it. Now I'm on some. Why are you thinking like this? Why do you want to harm this person? What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh shit! And so now as I'm yelling at him, I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like, what the fuck? I need to walk away from this. This isn't working out. I need to walk away from this. Because now my heart's racing, my blood pressure's up. I'm in fight or flight. Fuck fight or flight. I'm in pure fight mode. And from my older thought process, it's not a good place to be because I'd be reactive like a motherfucker. And the thoughts were, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then I was like, again, I stopped myself. Third time, that's when I walked away. Third, and all of this shit happened within a matter of minutes. But had I not thought about that beforehand, yes, his ass would have got slapped. Most definitely. Like one, if that had been the 20-year-old heat detector, oh no, we wouldn't even have been talking. No, bro, we ain't got shit to talk about. It's on site. Ain't no fight. Ain't no flight. Ain't no nothing, bro. Boy, it's on and cracking. The moment I see you on site, green light, let's go. I don't know. Maybe I went off the rails a little bit, but I when I thought about all this today, Tony, I was thinking about kids and about grown ass men like myself, and some of us never had. I was very fortunate. My mother was a very, very intelligent woman. She did a lot of things fucked up, but she instilled a lot of values and a lot of things like critical thinking, which I didn't know what it was, but I didn't practice it. But I understand what it is, and I understand what it does, and I understand how it helps. And that was a blessing, I guess, in that regard. But there are a lot of people that don't have that, or maybe they do have, because we talked about having two parents in the home, and you can have a great home. You can have the mother and the father in the home your entire life, and they teach you great life lessons. But when you walk out the door, peer pressure, outside living, outside them doors, boy, them kids don't belong to you no more. They belong to outside, and outside feeds them different information, different things, especially these days. But then you have adults, grown ass men, who don't understand critical thinking. But then, okay, so how do we tie all this in to mental health? I know I'm going on a tangent, but I'm trying to give some context. I'm doing my best to give context, and I'm not trying to do shit. I'm doing my best to give context, so we can so that we can work our way into that and see how that affects our mental health. Good or bad. What do you think, Tony?
Well, a lot of it is cultural, right? Because there is that survival instinct that if you go to certain neighborhoods, man, you know what I'm saying, like the neighborhoods that we grew up in. I mean, you said it earlier. The 20-year-old Tony wouldn't have never listened to the 50-year-old Tony.
Right.
I wouldn't have. I would have thought that I was, you know what I'm saying? I would have thought I was right in every sense. And so for someone to try to tell me what to do, I would have punched you in your mouth. It
Right.
would never even been a question. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it. You know what I'm saying? But again, survival is living, right? Most of our parents teach us how to survive in the world. because as young black men, we're taught different than our counterparts. We're taught that, hey, at the end of the day, I need you to come home. So we're taught how to deal with the police. We're taught how to move, shake and move in our communities, right? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So when we go outside the door, regardless, we got, you know, two-parent household, you know, teaching us all the right things. But again, when we step outside the door, it's a whole different environment. It's an environment that our parents don't live in.
Right.
We we have the people in the streets that we are around on a day-to-day basis. We're around these individuals more than we're around our regular in our own families.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we got what we need from home, right? And they're going to teach us everything that we need to do in the right sense. So we do have that in the back of our head. But when you have 90% of your day, you're spent out in a community, surviving, learning how to move, learning how to stay alive, you know what I'm saying, and things like that, that takes over. That takes over. So this is how a lot of us end up in jail. This is how a lot of us end up shot and things like that. Yeah, we're going to think about it. We've already thought about the consequences, but it's not a reality till those consequences smack us in the face. And a lot of times that takes us becoming older. It takes a lot of maturity.
But how can
We as men,
how can okay, so how can we intervene? How can we like let's look at it in this context. How can we right now, say I'm John Jolly Rancher, right? I don't know
mhm,
jack shit. I know I got some issues. I'm a very reactive person, me being jolly, getting made fun of by my name Jolly Rancher, John Jolly Rancher, or whatever the case may be. But the fact is I have zero critical thinking. And I have stresses, and I have all this other shit, anxiety and trauma and whatnots. How do I explain? How do we explain to John Jolly Rancher how important and how to use critical thinking?
well, there, you know, like when we think about this, we have to think about the people that we're talking to, right? How do we relate to them? Do they look like us? Do they talk like us? Have they been through the same thing?
Let's just say he's just your
So,
regular
as,
Joe Schmo. He's just John Jolly Rancher. He's mayonnaise. He's whatever. He's like water. He becomes the cup. You know what I mean?
so
He doesn't
conversation,
necessarily have to be from any particular said group or culture. He's just a guy who's out there going through shit and has zero critical thinking. Let's say he's in his let's give him a roundabout age of 25. 20, let's say 25 to 30. We don't know his age. He's 25 to 35.
okay. So that's a good year. Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Conversation is the key to everything that we do, right? You know what I'm saying? Because in conversation, we learn a lot about each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to go up to Joe Smo um, and have a
John Jolly
conversation with
Rancher.
him,
John
first off,
Jolly
I
Rancher.
want to listen to him.
Right.
I want to listen to him because, for one, through that conversation, is going to reveal a lot of things. Now, pivot. I can pivot in the things that I say to this individual in order to relate to him.
Right.
Now, once I get that relation to him, now I can begin to instill certain things that he can grab onto that's going to make more sense to him than going out there, hey man, you know what I'm saying? Like if you do this, this is what's going to happen. Through that conversation, you know what I'm saying, I can open up many, many doors. I can help him feel comfortable with talking with me. And then in turn, like I said before, and I'll always say this, trust is earned. No matter what you do, trust is earned.
True.
So once you earn that trust, now you can begin to the education, right? You begin the education. And once you begin to do that, now you have a sense of a relationship with this individual. So whenever that individual is in a situation or something, he's more apt to pick up the phone. That's
Right.
where the critical thinking lessons begin. And you just reiterating things that he's already known or
technical.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, no worries, man, no worries. So, like do those different things. If I had somebody like 50-year-old me, and I was trying to talk to 20-year-old me, knowing how I was hard headed, ignorant, naive to the game, but survival of the fittest was the name of the game that I lived. You know what I'm saying? The approach that I would have had to have had was that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm going to meet you on your level just to elevate you to the level that you need to be.
Right.
And so when we're talking to Joe Smo, we have to go at them in an area of relation. You know what I'm saying? We have to be they have to be able to relate to us because just like how we looked at the older people in our lives, like they didn't know what they were talking about and this, that, another. Well, they're looking at us the same way,
Right.
right? You know what I'm saying? Now, like, but when you're passionate about helping them and things like that, it's a basic rule of meeting people where they at.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to meet them where they at,
So,
and then once you can meet them where they at, you can walk with
right. So, what if Joe is? It's actually John Jolly Rancher, but we'll go with Joe Schmo. Uh,
them.
Shout out to Simeon Norfleet. That's my man, Shadow Master MC, and love JJ1814, man. Uh, Shout out to you, bro, for coming back into the show. He was last time. Oh, and again, before I forget, apologies for last week. I don't think we did the show last week. We were at Battle of the Eagle. Was it last week or week before? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Yes, love JJ. The discussion is on critical thinking, and the discussion is on critical thinking and the importance of it, and how it ties in with mental health, stress, anxiety, trauma, you name it. Um, but damn, I forgot where I was going with it. But uh, we're looking at different ways to talk to people about it. But so the question is, uh, within this critical thinking, or within having this conversation with John Jolly Rancher, uh, do you think that while you're talking to him, uh, that you could start, and you obviously would be starting to narrow some things down, but let's like to think about the mental health side of it. um do you think John doesn't have critical thinking because, or it could be caused because he has these traumas and these stress and has always been in this fight or flight mode, or he's always been in the survival mode, because there is such thing as survival mode if you've been through
Oh
a
yeah,
ton of trauma in your life. And so his survival mode is fuck it, I'm going to react. Right?
yes.
So how do we help John to understand what critical thinking is if it's tied into his trauma?
Well, we look at it when we're trying to help individuals in that situation. There's a certain level that we do come from understanding.
Right.
So when it comes down to trauma, things like that, right? That's where the conversation comes in. Can I relate to Jolly Rancher, you know what I'm saying, in his trauma? More than likely, I can. So, you know what I'm saying? And that's where you begin to take those things and put it out to the forefront. It's going to
Right.
be hard. Yes, it's always going to be hard. It's baby steps, right? Because for one, when you call people on certain things, they do get defensive. And it's automatic and it's okay. I want you to get defensive because for one, if you get defensive, that lets you. I'm gonna put it back on you and go. What was the reason why you got mad? Right? This starts to
What if they
open
don't
up the doors
understand
to
why
that
they got
critical
mad?
thinking.
What if they don't even
Right,
understand
right.
why they got mad?
Yeah. Well, because for one, you're when we're thinking about the younger versions of ourselves, it's reaction. It's reaction. It's reaction. Reaction is what? It's an emotional response.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're able to turn that around and be able to respond, you eliminated the emotional aspect of it, which becomes more critical and rational. But you have to get past understanding the trauma that someone else has gone through and putting it out there so they can see it for themselves. Because when you're actually living in, as you said it before, survival mode,
Hmm.
things like that, it becomes second nature to survive.
Right.
That's all that really matters. Not tomorrow. It's what is how am I going to get through the day?
Mm.
You know what I'm
Love
saying? And if
JJ.
he was out there doing the stuff that we was out there doing, game banging and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of things that come along with that. We live in a day and age now to where things are sometimes 10 to 100 times worse than what we've gone through. I mean, school shootings, the cop killings, everything
That
else. So these young kids
I
are
don't know.
out here,
I like. I, well, first of all, real quick, Love JJ 1814 says, "Great point. Some people don't have the mental facilities to even understand." Yeah, that's
right?
that's true. But now, just to touch on your point, we had school shootings and all that shit. It's just that everybody didn't have fucking cameras everywhere, and there wasn't cameras to see it all the fucking time. Like
True.
the difference is now that it's in everybody's faces all day, every day, twenty four
Yeah.
seven. And like I think CNN
But we were a different
was a big
breed
part of
too.
that. What's that?
You have to understand, we were a different breed from the ones who came after us,
Yeah, and we
right? You
also
know what I'm
came. We
saying?
also
We
yeah,
we
and
were
that's a
out here
problem
doing the damn
because
thing.
we
So
also
when we
came from
talk about
a generation of like stop crying about it, go out there and fucking do whatever. Like if I got my ass whooped,
right,
it was like if I went home with a black eye, it's like, oh, you better go back out there and do it again, or you're gonna get another ass whooping when you
exactly,
come home. So,
exactly. We came from a generation. If somebody came to your house and was like, "Hey, I want to fight your son" or something like that, our parents was like, "Get your ass out there and go fight." Right? There was none of that talking. It was, hey, you go out there and fight them, or you stay in here and fight me. You're not going to. So we chose the latter, right? You know what I'm saying? We
yeah,
went out there and did the damn thing, and in turn, it turned us into battle dogs. It turned us into battle dogs. Now, once you get out there and you in the mode, right? And most of us grew up in poverty. So let's add that stuff into it, right? Let's just break all of this stuff down so then we can start to open up the doors to the critical thinking.
right,
That way, that way people understand where we're coming from. You know what I'm saying? When you become a battle dog, you learn how to survive. So surviving mean what? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna survive by hook or crook. You're out there
right.
selling dope, or you know what I'm saying, you're doing other things as well, robbing, stealing, whatever you gotta do, right? So now if you're out there game banging like we were, or something, like not everybody did what I did. I was out there game banging. I did it for 24 years, over
Hmm.
24 years. So, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of things, a lot of traumas and things like that that came along with that, watching people die, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, now at the 50-year-old me, when I talk to someone in their 20s, when I talk to them, I'm trying to figure out where is that line of relationship that I can build with you so I can begin to build that trust with you, right? You know what I'm saying? But also, I want you to build that trust with me. I want you to be able to ask me questions because I want you to look at what I'm doing. Because for one, they're watching people watch you, right? They watch what you're doing.
Right.
And if you're out there being a hypocrite, you know what I'm saying? And they're not going to pay attention to you.
Real quick,
But if you,
love JJ 1814 says, briefly explain battle dogs. What are people battling?
we're battling life in general. And what I mean by battle dogs, when you've been fighting your whole entire life, you know what I'm saying? Just because life will beat you up, right? And you know what I'm saying? Not saying that it's a, you know, not saying that life is hard, but that hey, life got hands.
Life
Life
got
got hands.
hands. Uh,
You dig what I'm saying? So that's what I mean
Life
by
is
battle
ready to
dogs.
catch
When you
the
got an
fade. Life
individual
is
that's
ready
been
to catch the
fighting their
fade.
whole entire life just to live, that's what I mean by battle dogs, meaning that you can put me in any situation, and all I know what to do is how to fight. That's all I know how to do. Either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. That's what I call a battle dog, meaning that no matter what, I'm standing 10 toes down and I'm throwing hands. Now, you know what I'm saying? It took me a long time to understand that some battles didn't need to be violent. Some battles I had to sit down and really think about, you know what I'm saying, what was I really fighting for? You see, in my younger years, I was fighting to live. I was fighting to, you know what I'm saying, to see another day because it wasn't easy. I had people trying to kill me all over the place.
Right.
I had I mean, you got to remember when you out here homeless in the streets and things like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm fighting to try to keep a roof over top of my head. Whether if I can go get 40, $50 so I can get a motel room. And sometimes I didn't have that money. So then I have to be out here with the homeless people, right? You know what I'm saying? And as a young dude, hey, when you're out here on the streets and stuff, it's raw. It's raw. You got people that's going to take things away from you. So I got to fight them too. And then if I'm out there selling drugs, I got to fight the police because, hey, heat detector, you said it before, man. You know what I'm saying? Like the only difference is now from back then is that now we got cameras. See, back in the day, the police used to whip up on us. They used to shoot us too. We lost a lot of friends to them, as well as, you know what I'm saying, rival gang members. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes your own friends. So it's a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 365 days out of the year type of thing where hey, if you even get the chance to sleep, if you get the chance to close your eyes for a little bit,
See,
it's
hold
no
on. Now,
guarantee.
look. Well, now we got to get into something because Love JJ says, 1814. He says, so yes, battle dogs are so prevalent and even necessary depending on the circumstances. Now that I have to disagree wholeheartedly. And he also says it's typically called fight or flight. Yeah, but if fight or flight is that's something completely different because well, it's not different, but in that moment of fight or flight is where the critical thinking is necessary because you don't have to like fight.
Okay,
You don't have to run from the situation. You can be assertive. You can talk about it. You don't have to fight. It's not. It's you can defend yourself 100%, but you don't have to fight. You know what I mean? I recommend everybody defending themselves from anybody trying to invade their personal space or attack them. Yes, defend yourself by all means, but you don't have to fight a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Um,
okay. Let me add to that, right? Because I'm gonna have to push back just a little bit, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you at all, right? I'm just going to bring a different perspective on it
that's
because
what
I
that's what
understand
Love is saying. That's what
where my man
Love
came from
JJ
with that.
saying. He said,
So being a battle dog, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't see the other side of it. You don't see that you have another choice, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that's all you really are used to is fighting, the flight or fight. And this is where I come at it with. Like most people are born with that flight or flight. I never had the flight mode. I've always had the fight mode. So I never had any fear of anyone. It was like if you coming up on me, I'm about to break you up. Either you're gonna kill me or you know what I'm saying? You either gonna hurt me or I'm gonna hurt you. Right? And
mm-hmm.
so I never understood the whole aspect, you know what I'm saying, of being able to talk about it because people always taught me that, hey, with this thing that we do, there ain't no talking. When we run across each other, there ain't no words. We coming from here or we coming from the hip. So I understand all aspects of it. Now, it took me a long time to understand that I did have options, but for the longest time, I did not think that I had options. I didn't think that I didn't know that it was okay to talk about these things because for the simple fact of there was such a hatred. I mean, and it's a strong word, but there was such a strong hatred between the rival gangs. that there was no talking. There was war.
Right.
So that's where I grew up in. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in war. It was like, hey, when we hit the streets, when we hit the bricks, oh man, if I catch you, there ain't nothing to talk about. If you catch me, there ain't nothing to talk about. We just gonna do what we have to do.
Real quick,
So now,
because Love JJ's in here and he's saying a lot of very valid things. I'm gonna go back real quick because when he said, "Are you saying the battle is not necessary, even depending upon the circumstances?" And I don't necessarily mean violence. Yeah, yeah, maybe I jumped the gun a little bit on the whole fighting thing, but no, I mean, yeah, obviously, you battle with finances, you battle with emotional and mental things. The battle could be, that the fight or flight in that battle doesn't necessarily have to mean violence. Yeah, it's very true. And he said, also said, Malcolm X said his best, in my opinion, by any means necessary, and that doesn't necessarily mean violence. He says also he or she, I have no idea. Uh, the fighter, the fight or battle could be with hands, money, and the mind, and how we move. True indeed, sir. Duly noted. Like I said, we're not. I'm not trained in this shit. I'm just a dude. Talking about what I talk about and things that I feel like. I mean, I know I'm not singular in this. Like God poked me in the head and said, "Look, you're going to be the one who struggles with all this shit." I know people struggle with things. That's why we do this show. So I'm not right about any damn thing. I just feel like there are answers to things, and I feel like that for men, and especially men of any type of melanin, these things need to be addressed because man, we're all fucked up out here. We're all fucked up out here.
mhm,
And we weren't taught, trained, informed, or anything how to deal with a lot of these stresses, a lot of this anxiety. We don't even, some people out there don't even know the names of this shit. In
right,
their mind it's just like,
right.
I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? Or it's
Mm,
they don't know that they're dealing with depression. They don't understand what the depression really is. They don't understand what the trauma is. I don't like my cousin, or because maybe they stuffing something that their cousin did. You know what I mean? They don't understand what stuffing is. They don't understand what festering is. When you have a thought that festers and what it does to you. They don't understand breathing techniques. They don't understand critical thinking.
mm,
So like to address these things. This is why we do the show, to address these things. I don't know everything. I don't think that Tony knows everything, but we two good minds and two like-minded individuals, and there's other people out there like ourselves who think that these things are important and need to be addressed.
Well, yeah, and like, and that's what I said. Like it takes time to understand these things, and I do enjoy the questions that are coming across here because for one, um, everything needs to be discussed. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Everything needs to be put out on the table. These questions need to be asked because, for one, you have to figure out what works for you, right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Um, and that's where the healing process comes in because the
Can we
healing
talk about that real quick, Tony? Can
will
we talk about the
will
healing
often,
process? Can we talk about that for a second? Because I think
yeah,
the healing process helps you to understand that critical thinking.
it
It
does,
did for
it
me, at
does.
least.
Well, and that's truly important. But now the problem is, no one, a lot of people don't understand what true healing is.
Right.
It's easy to say that, oh man, I'm healing. And what happens a lot of times is that people will turn around and go back out and do the same things that hurt 'em. You dig what I'm saying? So, it's easy to say, oh man, I'm healing and things like that, and then actually make better choices. That's, I did a group probably about a couple years ago that was actually called Making Better Choices. And it was based around critical thinking. And, like a lot of people don't really understand that. And it is so crazy, you know what I'm saying? Um, because people never really understand what those multiple choices are. No
Hmm.
one really, a lot of times people get so wrapped up into the trauma, um, or even trying to start the healing. And
Right.
they may be on the right path, but they haven't started the healing. They're
Right.
just on the path. They haven't went in and held themselves accountable. They haven't went in and addressed the things that have actually happened to them. They haven't went in and said, you know what, I don't want this anymore. They haven't went in and looked at the relationships that they ruined,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, and really taking accountability for it, and actually, men and women alike. Look, I'm not pointing a finger at one gender or the next. I'm saying that, you know what I'm saying, when you can look at yourself and say, maybe I'm the toxic one, you know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that, the reason why I say that, we talked about this, brother, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot I had to go in and hold myself accountable for and say, hold on, it wasn't this person's fault. It was my
Right.
fault. I was the toxic one. Because in the process of my destruction, I destroyed a lot of women. And I wanted to blame them so much. I wanted to blame them for everything that I was doing. That I didn't understand that I was the one that was doing it.
Right.
Because I was
The hardest. I don't mean to
go
cut you
ahead,
off,
Kurt.
but real quick, also to love JJ. If I can't get, because we're really like digging into this, and if I don't get to read out your chats, I apologize. Um, but one the toughest fucking thing for me personally, and I think this goes to a lot of people, and it goes to that point of what Love JJ says is critical thinking takes the willingness, and the sad part is that too many people are not willing to elevate their thinking, or too many people are not willing to do the work. It's hard work, because the toughest thing to do is to look in the mirror at yourself and say, I did that and I fucked up,
Yeah,
and really, really not just mean it, but because like we talked about apologies versus sorries before, and to me, sorry is just like lip service, because it doesn't,
mm,
to me it doesn't mean anything. The apology is what means everything to me. But the most important thing about that apology is the action after. Because I can say I'm sorry, I can apologize or whatever. I just put a higher level of thinking on apology as opposed to sorry. If you hear me say I'm sorry, it's kind of lip service. It's not, I'm sorry, yeah, you know, but when I say I apologize, to me, it carries more weight. You know what I'm saying? So even looking in the mirror, I gotta apologize to myself. This recognizing this shit is tough enough, and it's okay. You must be able to not excuse yourself of the behavior, but you got to forgive yourself of the behavior and mean it, and put action behind it.
okay. I want to I want to add to that, my brother. I want to add to that because you're absolutely right. Right now, there the other side of it is too. Uh, is learning how to forget those that hurt you as well.
Voila,
Learning how to forgive them.
voila.
And so that's a key to it right there. That's the key to the critical thinking aspect. Because although you're forgiving yourself, when the last time that you had it in you to forgive that person that hurt you,
Whew.
and actually not want to get back at that individual, but go, I wish you well.
Mm.
I wish when do you become the bigger person in all of this? You can be the bigger person to yourself, and that's a key element to it, right? But what about those individuals that hurt you? When the last time you went to them because you don't know what they were going through? That's hard. It's real hard to look at that person and go, man, I know you did this to me,
Right.
but I forgive you. Even, even if it doesn't mean anything to them, even if that forgiveness don't mean nothing to them, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. See, that's how you move forward. That's what a critical thinking comes because it's easy to go out there and go, man, you did this to me. I'm about to do something really bad to you. I'm about to do something really bad to you. When you can sit around and, you know what I'm saying, and you can go, man, you know what I'm saying, what about that girl that took your kids away? What about those people that got you evicted out of your home? What about the people that stole your vehicle? What about those individuals that jumped you? And all of those different things, right? What happens when you could look at them and go, man, I get it, and I forgive you.
If that
So
would
what
be
you say,
critical thinking. That would be critical thinking. That would be a good part of it,
it's
I
critical
believe.
thinking, right? But
Yeah.
well, that's a small part of critical thinking.
I
That's a
think
small part of critical
I like
thinking. So I'm just we're just adding both sides to it
right.
now, right? You know what I'm saying? Because there's always two sides to it.
Right.
Critical thinking is so much more than one dimension.
Right.
It's a multi-layered thing. You know what I'm saying? It's understanding that hey, your faults and things like that, and being able to apologize to yourself, being able to apologize to those individuals that you hurt, but also having forgiveness for those who hurt you. And then being able to go, I want something more out of my life. So the healing aspect is the letting go aspect. Not everybody's going to go, you know what I'm saying? Oh man, you know what I'm saying? All right, that's cool and dandy, right? But it's cool though. You have to be okay with that.
Right. Well,
As a person,
that
as
goes
an
to what
individual,
Love
you have to
JJ
be
just
okay
said.
with that. But
Love JJ just said
huh?
also Love JJ just said I also believe that in your inner circle plays a part in how you think and behave. It's important to bring people in and also to remove people from your space. This is key. This is extremely key. I know that one of my part of my thinking and my thought process now is hold on, he says I agree, hard work and chipping away at ego is smart, is a start. Yeah, but I started cutting a lot of people out. Just cutting them out. It doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean I don't care for them. Doesn't mean that I don't wish them well. Because I am understanding how I think, what I need in my life, what I want and prefer in my life. And that does not mean I can't love your stupid ass from a distance. Because I,
Well,
well, what's up?
here's the crazy part about it though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we can cut people out, but see, life has a strange way. When you're on the right path of changing the way that you're stinking thinking, and you know what I'm saying, and you're on the path to healing, life has a strange way of removing those people.
Well, yeah,
You don't necessarily have to do it, right?
yeah,
You can open it. Hey, they will walk away from you because they can no longer hold your trauma and use it against you. That's the
right,
crazy. Look, man, it's so deep and profound when we look at the layers of it, right? I never had to I in my healing process. Let me just be a little bit more clear. In my healing process and in my forgiveness process and my growth, I never had to remove anyone from my life because they realized that they had no more power over me, that they removed themselves.
right,
You dig what I'm saying? And so it kept my heart good.
right,
I didn't have to pick a fight with nobody and cut the strings. I just never allowed them to hold those strings over me no more. I was no longer their puppet. They can no longer use me and manipulate me, you know what I'm saying, to get the reaction that they wanted out of me because they were so used to the Tony, or let me just use my hood name. They was used to Screwball, the dude that would go upside your head with a baseball bat or a crowbar, that they wasn't used to the Tony that was going. nah, man, I'm not going to do that no more. And once they realized that I was really true about it, they said, you know what? You changed, man. You changed. I know
Okay,
most of us
I'm
that's
not
on this
challenging.
path
Not. I
of
was just gonna
thinking
say I
different and things
challenge
like
you.
that. We heard these words all the time. Oh man, you changed, man. You're not who I used to be because that's who they need you to
Okay, well,
be
how
in
about
order
this?
to
How about
justify.
this, Tony? How about this? Now that's let's get back to the critical thinking real quick. So it
Hmm.
can be very frustrating when you're uh with someone and you're making these changes, right? I'm Johnny Jolly Rancher over here. I'm making all these fucking changes. I'm feeling good. I'm looking great. I'm feeling great about myself. I'm making all the necessary steps to be a better person. And then I come across that old friend or whoever this person may be, family member or whatever. And they're like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, sounds good. You still a stupid motherfucker. Johnny, you still on bullshit. I can tell you on bullshit. Now that thinking, now Johnny may still have that shit boiling right up underneath the pot, the lid of the pot, and may fuck around and jap the fuck out. Or does he take a step back and think about it? What that person's saying? Do they really mean that? Am I really being fake? Am I really being fraudulent in my actions or my behavior? Do they just take it all in? Do they just let that person talk and say what they need to say? Does Johnny Jolly Rancher let it go? Does he hold on to it? Does he begrudge them? All of those things you need to process in that moment, just like anything else, just like that is what critical thinking is, right? You have to think about it before you respond, before you react. Shout out to Love JJ 1814. Uh, yeah, I see that the guest dipped out. I don't know what happened, but thank you. Critical thinking. He's back. There he is. Critical thinking is
Yeah,
self.
I'm back
Yeah,
again.
you're back in here. Yeah,
What was it, bro?
yeah. I was just saying, I don't know if you caught it, but that critical thinking part comes back into play. Like you say, you're making Johnny Jolly Rancher's making all of these great decisions. He's feeling better. He's walking on cloud nine. He's doing great. He's thinking about things. He's going to therapy. He's doing all the right moves. And then that one person comes up and is like, oh, you still stupid ass Johnny, man. You ain't on shit and blah 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 blah. He's going in, he's doing whatever, and then because all of us still have that kind of the pot is still boiling. The lid is on it, but the pot is still boiling. And
Okay.
Johnny has to make that decision within that moment. Does he revert to old Johnny or old screwball? Does he revert? Does he get defensive? Does he go into this mode of fucking fight because these things are feeling really offensive to him? Or does he think about it for a second and talks to that person?
Okay.
Says, you're entitled to your own
Let me
opinion. You're
let me
entitled
ask
to
the
that.
question then. Let me ask the question. This is for anybody out there listening. When do you walk away?
Mm,
When did you say that you deserve so much better than to have people constantly criticizing you or you know what I'm saying, or consistently judging you over your past? When do you say enough is enough? When do you stop saying, when do you stand on business from your own, from for yourself and say, I deserve so much more than this? When do
right,
you stand on yours and go, you know what, man, I can't do this no more? These are the situations, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the situations where it's okay to cut people out of your life. So those individuals, they have a certain role that they need to play in your life.
right,
Sometimes it's to remind you, you know what I'm saying, of where you came from. And sometimes it's to teach you how hard it is to get to where you need to get to. And so these decisions that you have to make in your life It's going to be hard. Critical thinking is not easy. It is not. Look, man, it is going to be so hard because you have to make a very informed decision in your life and say, that's not who I am
Is
anymore.
that long term? That like
It's
I'm talking
okay.
about critical thinking in the moment, not a long term. Like
Right.
I'm talking about in the moment,
But
like in the
even in the
motherfucking moment.
moment, even in the moment, because even in the moment, right, you know what I'm saying? If there's any part of you that is thinking critically about anything in this life, it's already a process that has started. You know what I'm saying? So even in the moment, if you're thinking about it, you know what I'm saying, and you've done a little bit, and you've done a fraction of the work, you will look at Joe Smo that's been up there putting you down, talking down to you, and you would look at him and go, man, you know what? You're right. I guess you'll never know who I become. And you can walk away from that. You do have the ability to walk away from that. It all depends on where you at what stage in your life. What part of life did you catch me in? What version of me did you catch? See, it goes back to that regular statement, right? You know what I'm saying? If a person comes up and tells you about something that I did, I need you to pay attention to them because they're not wrong.
Right.
They're not lying to you, right? But you also
It could be
get the
their
chance to
perception,
go,
of what you did,
right, right. So you know what I'm saying?
unless
So
it's an
it's not
actual
like that
fact.
they're wrong in telling people about what they did. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at your life. Again, in that split second moment. It's okay. Prime example. Prime example. And this just recently happened to me. I had an individual walk up to me, tell me he was going to whoop my ass. I thought it was funny. Now, 20-year-old me, I would have punched him in his mouth. You would have had to show me. I'm from the show me state. You would have had to show me, right? 50-year-old me, I looked at him. I said, look here, young man. I said, all that sounds good and everything, but I'm pretty sure that the outcome is not going to be what you want. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, love JJ. Oftentimes, in my opinion, people might perceive your thinking as judgment, which may not even be. A hold on. Let me ask you
Yeah.
something, JJ. Hold on, real quick. I'm gonna put the link in because I know that your chats are coming in a little late, and I'm gonna give this about another half hour. So I would like to bring you in if you want to. You don't have to. I don't want you to feel pressure to do anything. But it would be nice. Um, let me. Oh damn it. Let me get the. What you call it set up here real quick, so I can put the link in the chat. But if you would like to come in and holler at us, that would be great. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Boom, there it goes. And you're more than welcome to come in and join this discussion. I'm going to give
Hey
it
man,
about another
I would
30
love that,
minutes.
man, because hey, they put in some really great comments too, man. You know.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. He also says, because I can't get to every last one of his chats. I'm sorry. I apologize about that. Love JJ1814. He says the person who said that to you was the environment that made him comfortable in saying that. Yeah.
Because he felt that's the way that he felt. Look, man, I don't claim to know how the next person feels about how they feel that they can talk to individuals. They just do. This is the world that we live in. I had to learn to adapt to the world that we live in. We live in a world where people feel that they can just say whatever the hell they want to you without consequences. And that's their comfort level because there's nobody out there teaching them anything different. So, like, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, freedom of speech. You say whatever you need to say. A lot of times people are dealing with so much trauma that their only reaction is to get an emotional response out of you so they can justify their next words that come out of there. So if I would have reacted to it in an emotional way, it would have justified him raising his voice, becoming very aggressive, becoming very defensive. Instead, I just responded to him. I
Right.
just responded to him. I did. There was no emotions behind it. I just said, "Hey," I just simply said, "Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Hey, whatever, whatever you feel, you know what I'm saying, is totally okay. But now, you know what I'm saying? As long as you don't put your hands on me, we'll never have a problem. You can say whatever you want to. That's totally fine. I had the option. I see. I have the power to myself. I reclaim that back from you. You have no authority over me. And that's pretty much where my response came from. You have no authority over me. I'm not giving you to power to change and take me out of who I am.
Right.
This is where that critical thinking starts, right? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people never get this. If you give an individual the power to take you out of who you are, they've already won the fight. Because the sooner you raise your voice or to raise your hand to punch that person in the face, you've just now committed assault.
Mm.
Who's in the wrong? That person, you can say that person that said this to you is in the wrong, but stick like, hey, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to, as an individual, to start the way of critical thinking, you have to remove the emotion out of the way that you think.
That's key.
It's easy.
That's
That's
key as
key
fuck.
to it. You have to remove the emotion out of your thinking. Your emotions have nothing to do with it. Two emotional individuals end up doing what? They end up hurting each other, right?
Come on now.
It's just like a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whoever you're talking to. If you get into an argument with that individual and your emotions are this high, more than likely you're about to say some things to each other that you may regret afterwards. And sometimes there's no coming back from that.
Facts.
So remove the emotion out of the way that you think. Emotions can be controlled.
Facts. I agree.
It's not personal.
So,
It's not personal.
and I'm gonna go ahead and close it out, man. I appreciate the fuck out of you, man. This has been one hell of a conversation, and it leads to a lot. I mean, and I believe that even myself tonight, I'm gonna lay down when I go to rest my head, and I'm gonna be thinking about all of this. Um, he says, "Love JJ." He says, "Emotion is a gift. It's a good thing, but we need to continue learning how to manage our emotions. Emotions are not a bad thing.
Emotion. I just
I'm an
want to
emotional individual. I
just say
my
thank
my
you to
my family
JJ
calls
for
me a
that as
crybaby.
well. Uh,
Facts.
yeah, definitely facts. Emotions are a gift. Um, if you use them in a good context, they can be a gift and a curse. And you said it right. As long as you learn how to manage them, learning when your emotions are relevant and learning when they're not.
Right. Hey, listen,
In a
Tony.
heated situation, there's many people doing life in prison right now because they let their emotions take over,
Big facts.
right? And then there's a lot of people that aren't in prison right now because they didn't let their emotions take over. So emotions are beneficial in a lot of different areas. We're human beings, you know what I'm saying? So you can't fault the next person for being emotional.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But there's a time and a place to do it.
Right. Well,
There's a time and a place to do it.
and
You
this
just
is the
have to
time,
learn
and
out of
this is
certain heated conversations. you have to remove those emotions out of it.
Yeah, this is the time and this is the place where we say goodnight. But I
Man, I
I appreciate the
appreciate
hell out of
this.
you, bro. I appreciate the hell out of you. This has been a hell of a conversation, and I think it's a conversation that was needed. You know, like I've said to you in private, in talking to you, like I don't research a whole lot of stuff. I do at times, uh, before these we do these shows, but one of the things that I do all the time, and I told you this, Tony, is that I wait for day of, sometimes minutes before the show, before I decide what the topic is, and that's because I feel like at that moment, what I think it should be about is something that needs to be talked about, and it's not, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that that's what I'm thinking about myself, because I told you earlier today I was struggling with what um shout out to D Nick. Oh no, that might be Mel from Microphone Misfits. Blessings to the check from the Fits, currently on tour, but salute for the work from you both. Thank you very much. Shout out to the Misfits. But the idea comes because I think that it needs to be said, heard, and discussed. And about 98% of it is not something I'm necessarily going through, but uh it's just something that I feel like needs to be talked about. And I'm not really well dressed on a whole lot of things, but I have good understanding. I feel JJ says even if you don't research at all, at least you create a space for discussion. Absolutely. That's how we learn and grow and evolve mentally. Yeah. So yeah, there it is in a nutshell. But I want to thank you again, Tony. And as we do at the end of every show, final thoughts about what we spoke on. It's only me and you right now, so I'm the only one in the studio right now, so it's all good. Just me and you, and then we'll call it one. Last thoughts, Tony. Tony Lynch.
Man, the next time you look at the person in front of you, remember, you know what I'm saying? Become the individual that you need for them and treat them like a human being.
Mm,
It's all love.
facts.
It's all love.
Facts. Okay. Good shit. I'm gonna say this. You remember when you were little and your mama said, think before you speak, or don't let things just fly out of your mouth. She was really telling you to think, practice critical thinking.
Yeah.
Think before you speak. Think before you react. Think before you behave in a fucked up manner. Just give it a minute.
Mm.
Just give it a minute. Take a step back from the inside. You don't have to take a step back physically. Take a step back from the inside. Breathe. Just breathe. Let it process. You'll feel so much better. And you'll probably
Yeah.
make the right decision, whatever it may be. And with that being said, you already know what it is. This has been the check-in. We'll be back next Sunday, 8:30, like always. Peace to everybody. Love, respect, and gratitude to everybody and anybody that watches this later or has been watching it tonight. Y'all have a blessed one. Peace.
Peace.
Spaghettios. Want to make sure that I ended it. No. And finish and end.